In the first episode of you guys' podcast, you said that a coach can lay the foundation for culture, but it's on the players to take that and run with it. And I think that's 2019 wasn't the best talented, the most talented team we've had. I mean, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was really talented, but it wasn't the most talented. But you guys did the most with who you guys were, and it was 100% culture. It was 100% leadership.
Welcome to the Game Changers League podcast, where we're cultivating culture and shaping the future of sports with our conversations. We've got a special guest here in the house with us tonight. We call him Zorn, Jeff Losornio. He's an assistant baseball coach here at Rogers State University. Throughout his playing career, played at Oral Roberts University, and I'm excited to have him. Corey, you've heard us probably mention him in past episodes, and Corey played for him there at Rogers State.
I did not play with him.
Yeah, he's a little bit older than that. And we
need to be said.
Listen, I know, I'm sorry, but we got the Zohawk in the house.
That's right.
Okay,
that's right.
And so I'm excited to have this conversation. We've been trying to get him on for a while. They just wrapped up baseball season here at Rogers State, and tell us a little bit about the year. What you guys had?
Man, we had a great year. It was one of those things. You guys are talking about culture, and for the last couple of years, the culture has been a struggle, to be honest. And this year, we just had a group of guys come in that just were, they go about the game right. I heard you talk in one of the episodes about self-policing from your athletes, and that's a coach's dream, and we had it. I remember one of the very first things in the season in the weight room in the fall. One of our guys that had been here before did 6 reps, and we were doing 8, and one of the brand new guys just looked at him and went, like, you got 2 more. Yeah. He's like, what? He's like, you got 2 more. And he's like, all right. So he got after, changed the guy's trajectory. You know what I mean? So we had a great year. We made it to the playoffs. We're projected, I think, 8th. One of those deals you get frustrated with. We're always after Emporia in the standings. They've never finished higher than us in the standings, and it is what it is. But that kind of fires you up and gets you motivated. And we ended up in 5th and made it to the playoffs, and unfortunately got beat out in the first round. But we had a good little run
by the team that won the tournament.
By the team that won the tournament, yeah. And we actually liked the matchup. We had our best arm on the mound, and he just wasn't as solid as he has been all year, and our offense kind of struggled and didn't really pick him up when he needed picked up the most, but still had a great year and just really enjoyed it. And when you guys are talking about culture, this is an easy one for me to come into and be excited about because the culture was so good.
That's good. Well, tell us a little bit more about like your playing career, how you got involved in baseball, and really, I know, coming to Rogers State, being involved, you got the AMP station that you lead there, student ministry on campus, and just all of that. How all that came to be. I just want you to share your story.
Yeah, man, I was born in baseball. Literally, I grew up across the street from a guy that played for Tulsa Rogers. Back in the day, Tulsa Rogers was the premier high school to go to. They had a coach that was just absolutely phenomenal. He was meaner than all get out, but he was phenomenal. And talk about culture. I mean, you knew when you come into that place, you knew what it was about, and you knew how you were going to do things. You were going to outwork everybody else. You were going to take pride. Our shirts literally said the pride of Tulsa Rogers. So you knew what you were getting into. And Gordon Morgan was his name. And man, he's one of those guys that when I was there, I hated him, but I also loved him. I respected him, and he pushed me, and I didn't know until I left that he was actually pushing me. I thought he was just mean at times, but then I could look back and see that no, he was pushing me to be the best that I could be. And when I get to NEO and I played there for a couple of years, and then I went to Oral Roberts and played there for a year, and I start hearing the stories about these coaches calling back to that guy and asking him, hey, what about Jeff Losornio? Can he help us? And that guy went to bat for me, so I I grew up in it and just kind of outworked everybody. I was small, slow, and weak, so pretty athletic. Like, everything you need in baseball, I didn't have, but I had work ethic, and I learned that from Gordon Morgan. Like he really drove that into me, and so I kind of overachieved as far as getting to do the things that guys that were on my high school team that were bigger, stronger, and more athletic. They went and played junior college, and they went and played some baseball at some NAIAs, and I got to go to a D1, and played is a loose term for what I did at Oral Roberts. I was on the team. But I thought baseball was about over because I didn't have anything from NEO to Oral Roberts. I ended up walking on there. And when you think it's, you can relate to this, when you think it's been taken away and then you get another opportunity, all of a sudden you're the greatest teammate. You're excited. Cold weather is like, what's this? Let's go get it. I remember a day at Oral Roberts where it was freezing cold and everybody's complaining. And I'm like, sign me up, put me in, coach. If he doesn't want to play, I'll do it, but it was just, one of those deals that I just got to do some things that I never thought I'd get to do because of the game of baseball, and I absolutely loved it,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, how did that translate to, you coming here in your baseball, coaching career?
Yeah, so I coached Legion Ball when I was younger. Got a state championship in AA in 2000. Not our best team, but it was one of those teams that fought hard and really went after it. And then I just kind of took some time off and coached my girls. 10 years ago, you guys know, but God changed my life. Yeah. I call myself a AAA member. I was an alcoholic, an abusive, emotionally and verbally abusive. And I was an adulterer, and my wife had grace like God and let me have a 259,000th chance at trying to restore our relationship, and God went to work in that and restored us. And I had my own business, and I played golf before. Whenever I was a thug, that's all I did was golf 6 days a week. I really didn't drink that much. I only drank when I golfed, but that was 6 days a week. So but I was around the house too much then, and she was like, "Man, you need to find something to do." And I had a guy when I was 18 that come to NEO and led Bible studies, and I thought I was saved then, and he walked through some stuff with me. Then of course I turned away the first chance that I got, turned away from God, but I was like, man, I'd kind of like to do what that guy did. And so I come up here to RSU, and I went and talked to Coach Klimas and said, hey, man, I'd like to come in here and just hang out and share the love of Christ with your guys and tell them what he's done for me. And he was like, yeah, you can't do that. And I was like what? And he was like, just come in here and be an old baseball guy and see what happens with the Christ part. Yeah. I didn't know at that time, he had experienced it before. When he was at OBU, he had a guy that was just relationship. And the guys loved him, and he thrived in that environment and helped them thrive in their environment. And then right after that, they had another guy come in that was the other way. I'm going to just force Jesus on you, and luckily at that time, thank God, I was smart enough to listen to how he said to go about it instead of thinking I knew better, which is part of my problem in life anyway, before that. And I just hung around, and before you know it, we start having really cool conversations about God in the most unique and odd situations. And then I hung around so much, he was like, man, why don't you come and work with my hitters and kind of be like our team chaplain, but I want you to work with guys and travel with us. Yeah. And I was like, man, I'm all in. And at the time we had kind of started, the AMP station had kind of started growing a little bit because of a few guys that I had some relationship in baseball. But whenever I kind of got in that more of a chaplain volunteer role, we really started seeing kind of leaders emerge out of that group. And one of them's my son-in-law now, and he was there the year before Murph. And then of course Murph's like a son. He tries to say his boys are my grandsons, but I'm still trying to go for uncle. But you guys are calling out the old in me, so maybe I got to settle in on that grandpa part.
Hey, you still got the coolest haircut in this studio.
Well, I don't know about that. I take every compliment I get because I don't get very many. So
you got more hair than Mickey. I can tell you that right now.
I do have a lot of hair, and I get half price haircuts like doing this. So when they don't finish it, they just don't make you pay all over it. So. Yeah, and I the game's been so good to me. I always wanted to coach, but I didn't get the opportunity until I gave God my life, and then God gives me the opportunity to be around the game that I love so much. And I'm there secondarily for the coaching. I take the coaching serious. I'm all in on everything that we do, but it's much easier to do when you realize it's the secondary reason that you're there, because I'm really there to share the love of Christ.
Right. The best coaches are the coaches that have a purpose outside of the game. I truly believe that with all my heart. And for some of us, that's, those of us who are people of faith, that's the component. Yeah. Like, that's the purpose. Yeah. For others that just believe in, impacting the lives of young people, and, pouring into the next generation, in some way, or, giving back to a game that gave so much to them, whatever it may be. Whenever you have a purpose, it drives you completely different than just winning.
Yeah. And Coach Klimas epitomizes that. Taking a chance on Murph whenever he didn't really know the full extent of the injury, but that semester that he didn't get to pitch, but still knowing and believing in what he can do, and the little things, like you have guys that come through and they're not good enough to play the next year, and you'd almost be better off letting those guys go. But Klimas is like, man, they committed to us, and we made a commitment to them. So we've got to own our decision to bring them in just as much as we would hope that they would own their decision to come in. And, and he also talks about, man, they're so close to getting a degree. We took a kid this year and redshirted him because he's already been here a year. So he was a junior. Now he's a senior. We redshirted him this year because he's so close to graduating. Yeah. It's going to help him better to be able to come back next year and be able to finish his degree. And I don't think there's a lot of coaches thinking like that, and when you're around that starts to rub off on you. It's not all just about the game. We say all the time that we're here to grow great young men who are also really good baseball players. And Klimas lives that out. There's no faking that. There's no, I'm going to say it in public, but not really mean it in my heart. He lives that out, and when you're around it, it starts to wear off on you, and you treat your guys differently according to that, and it fosters an opportunity for them to grow. This kid is in the weight room every day. He's taking swings like crazy. I mean, he's at work. He's not just going, I'm going to finish it and try to. The dude's trying to earn a spot next year, and I'm proud of him for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alex, I'm proud of you, baby. So keep after it.
I'll give another great example of Coach Klimas doing that. You sharing that story made me think of this. 2020 was supposed to be my senior year. Obviously, March, COVID is when it canceled the season. So Klimas recruits the mess out of California. Yeah. When I was there,
that's country for a bunch.
I would say probably 90% of our roster was California guys.
Yeah.
I mean, of the starting 9, 7 of them were for California. Wow. And so, he just has loads of California dudes. He always does. He's got kind of a pipeline with the junior colleges there. That's beside the point. But COVID hits. It cancels our season. Well, if you guys remember, that was when, flights were, they weren't allowing people to fly. So there's 50 dudes in Claremore, Oklahoma that can't go home.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere to go.
And they probably wouldn't want to go to California at that time because
that's true.
Just how things were.
Yeah. And so they're literally I have no idea what to do. Now, Klimas, as a head baseball coach in the NCAA, has absolutely no responsibility beyond that point. He's fulfilled his obligation. He's said, hey, it's canceled. You can't use the facility. I'm sorry. That's it. For 2 weeks that I know of, because I went home, but for 2 weeks, he gathered every guy on the team and said, hey, I want you to put together a list of groceries that you guys want. He went and bought every single dorm room groceries, hand-delivered them to the door, and I think it was 3 times a week, but it might have been more. 3 times a week provided dinner. Yeah. He went and bought a huge pulled pork and smoked it for the entire team. It's hey, it's at the amp station. It's going to have to be come and go, because of the COVID rules. But it's there. It's ready. Just go and grab a box and go back to your dorm. It's he didn't have to do that. Yeah, but that's part of why I admire him so much. Is he's not just a great coach, but he's just a man of integrity. He's a man of he cares. He loves his players, and it's just such a mark.
And that's a part of culture. we could go on the road and eat McDonald's or give them $10 in meal money, and no one would say anything, you know. But he likes for it to be an experience. You should be talking about your college baseball experience when you leave.
Yeah.
You should be some of our best recruiters. You should be telling your buddies, like, dude, no, you want to go there, you know. And so he likes for it to be an experience, and he loves the guys. I mean, we had a guy on your team, I won't mention his name, and he had we talked about this today, he had a really bad exit meeting after his junior year, which was his first year with us. We almost always take junior college transfers. He had a really, really bad exit meeting, and it was a call to manhood. It was like, you don't like how we do things, why don't we find you somewhere else to go, and we'll help you, and we'll end on good terms. And the kid was like, no, I want to come back here. It's like, man, you're talking about a life change. You're not talking about, you know, comb your hair different. We're talking about an attitude. Like, you got to come back and be the word you said earlier, buy in the second episode, buy in. And we always say that buy in that's our biggest phrase. And he came back different. But in that year, when he was just fighting everything, he was at the amp station one night, and he's like, man, he hates me, you know, talking about Coach Klimas. And I got upset, and I was like, dude, like, you need to stop it. And he's like, what? And I'm like, that man doesn't hate you. Yeah. He didn't do things how you think he ought to do it. But I promise you, that guy's feeding you when he doesn't have to feed you. He's risking his family life, you know, taking time away from his family so that he can be on the field with you and on buses and all that dude does. It's the opposite of that. He loves you guys. You just can't see it because you're frustrated with whatever it is, you know, that's going on. But that kid did come back the next year and was a part of that senior leadership team that he's talking about, that said, man, it's time to win a championship, not just play to be playing, you know.
Well, I think some of the young athletes think, well, you know, if the coach is being hard on me and the coach is, you know, being, you know, direct and being tough, and he's telling me, hey, like, you're not cutting it, like, that somehow that's, you know, that's not love. Yeah. Love is the truth even when it's hard. Yeah. That's what love is. And, you know, so.
Well, and if you're on a team and you do, Murph's a coach's dream. He did what you asked him to do. He went above that. He outworked other people. You know, Murph, I told you before, when we talked about this podcast months ago, that when Murph was on the mound, you knew you were going to have a chance to win. You may not win all of them, but you were going to have a chance. You were going to be in it. But the other guys that can't fall in line with the culture and what you're trying to do and all these things, they start to just kind of disappear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From your mind, you know, the worst thing ever is if a coach stops talking to you, you're probably done.
Yeah.
They ain't got to be mean. I mean, Klimas isn't a yeller. I'm not a yeller. I used to be. I thought that was the only way. Then I learned being under someone that doesn't do it like that. That's not, you don't have to do that at all.
Right.
But if a coach stops talking to you, you probably need to go to him and say, hey, what have I done? Because I want to correct it. And I bet 90% of the time they'd be like, man, you're not bought into how we want to do things. We have 4 things that we talk about. He doesn't ever say it in this order, but I think I like to say it in this order because it makes a word, and it says feed. It's focus, energy, effort, and toughness. How many of those things require physical ability? There ain't one. And if you're small, slow, and weak, you can still do these things. Yeah. And you probably have a chance with us. Because if you got focus, energy, effort, and toughness, you got the stuff that can go out and compete.
Yeah.
You know, you can do the little things. My biggest phrase is I don't care about winning the game. I care about doing all the little things it takes to win the game. And if you do that, then you got a chance. And those things are huge. He went out and pitched with a broke back, coming in every inning, letting the athletic trainer fix his back. You know, that's toughness. Yeah. That ain't something you can just fix overnight. That's got to be in you, you know. Yeah. And so it's just whenever you get after this stuff, you got to be focused on the things that matter, you know.
I love it.
That's why RSU was tailor-made for me. I mean, it really was. It was kind of a perfect storm, because like my entire career was built on that. I was small, slow, and weak, and didn't throw hard, and didn't have the best stuff. But it was like that was what I built my career on. Like, I just want to work, and I want to work hard, and I want to do what's asked of me and go above and beyond. It really was. It was a player's dream as much as it was a coach's.
Well, fit is certainly an important component. Whenever you're trying to build a culture and you're trying to build cohesion in a team, finding guys, figuring out where they fit, and do they fit, and there's times whenever it's just not a fit. But I appreciate what you're saying about, like, Klimas's approach towards even those kids that come in and they're not a fit, but we made a commitment to them. Like, we're going to help them, get where they need to be, or either, get their degree, whatever it might be. That's awesome. So talk to us a little bit. And so, obviously, the door open for you to be able to coach there, more hands-on as a coach. I know you told me, at one point, like, you were just kind of volunteering, then they brought you on staff.
Yeah.
And, had an opportunity to do that. And then out of that, you're launching the AMP station and the ministry that you guys do there on campus. Talk to me a little bit about the impact of what you're seeing in that, and how that, whenever you think about this whole culture piece, one of the things we talked about, we had Cody and Randy in here, and in that episode we were talking about, like, two things that every program needs: strength and conditioning, somebody who will teach young people how to work, and then character coach. And really, in a lot of ways, not only have you been a baseball coach, a baseball guy, but you've been kind of a character coach in that program. And not by shoving it down people's throats and not, force feeding it, but really just living it out in front of them and giving them an opportunity, a place to go and be discipled, be poured into, and to develop that kind of character. Talk to me about the impact that's having and what you've seen.
Before he starts, I'll add to it. You said, like, character coach, and, like, it wasn't just that Zorn was living out the life of Christ in front of you, or when I walked onto the baseball field, I knew, apart from my performance, apart from whether I did well yesterday or not, Zorn loves me.
Yeah.
Like, that's the entrance that he gains from the players. And it's natural and it's real. Like, it's not manipulation. It's not fraud.
That's the only way it can work, because
genuine,
people will slip it out if it's not. Yeah.
And so when dudes' lives start falling apart on the team, like, he's the guy they go to, speaking to character coach. So he has the ability to then help walk through people through stuff that is just awful or hard or, like, tragic. And it's like, it's because of the love that you have. Not that Coach Klimas doesn't love us, but it's like there was something special about the way Zorn loved the guys, and still does, that's like, it drew you in to, like, he's safe. You know what I mean? So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I appreciate that. And honestly, that's part of what this last year of praying to maybe take a step back from being a paid, part-time assistant, and then I've reached the determination that I am going to back out a little bit, was that. I think there's a little bit now of that perceived coach in me that keeps them from maybe coming and reaching out like you guys felt like you could, and I don't know that for a fact, but it feels like that a little bit. Even though there's still some that do that. I mean, they still come to me. It's usually ones that I have really, really strong relationship with, and where before, I'm in the cage one day, and it's one of those weird scenes. Like, everybody's out there working out and practice ends, and it's like what's the show with Kevin Costner? Field of Dreams. Oh, yeah. Everybody vanishes, and it's just him and his dad, Well, this is me and this kid. The kid's in the cage, and he's hitting off a tee, and I just go out there and start putting balls up there, and he just starts talking, and, he's having trouble with a girl back home, and I'd lived this story, which was what was even crazier, because he's like, man, I love her, but I like to have fun here, and I'm like, brother, I know where you're going, and it doesn't work. I'm just going to tell you, this ain't going to work. And if you love her, have you told her, it was just a really, really cool conversation out of nowhere. And I think it was because he knew who I was. He knew who I represented. He knew why I was there. And it gave me a cool opportunity to just go and say, hey, you got to ask me some questions. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Where are you at with God? And he was one of those, I believe in something, but it's, higher power. I can't put a name on it. And we just had this really cool conversation, and it was entrance, that you don't get just naturally, but it has to happen organically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I've always just, that's why I'm there. And I feel like maybe a little bit of that's been lost. And so that's why I'm going to go back to more of the chaplain, part-time, volunteer. And Climas is awesome. He's like, man, if you get good people around you, you have them around as often as you can have them. So if you want to travel some, come on. If you don't, that's fine too. And there's some things in the missions field that I'm wanting to do too. But I've always just loved that part of it, because I do get to build strong relationships with people outside of the game, but also while we're in the game. And, Murph and I have had some of the more nose-to-nose knockdown dragouts than anybody, because we love each other that much, and the people that you love the most, you get irritated with the most, but I also try to live it out there, the good and the bad. I remember I had a kid a couple years ago that I made fun of in front of the team, just an innocent joke. It wasn't anything serious or nothing, but it hurt his feelings. And I found out. I was like, it really hurt his feelings. And so, I brought everybody together, and I was just like, I hurt his feelings, and I shouldn't be doing that. It was a joke. I did it for the laugh. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it cool. But I also did it in front of everybody. Yeah. If I didn't do it in front of everybody, I just apologized to him in the back room. Yeah. But because I did it in front of everybody, I want to make this apology in front of everybody. Yeah. And there were guys that were coming up to me and were just like, I've never seen that. And it was like, well, I've never done it, but it's what felt right because that's how I did it. You know what I mean? It just felt like that was the way to do it, since that's how I hurt him. And you guys got to give me some grace, because I may do it again. I hope not, but I want to learn from it. And it's a whole lot easier to learn from if I got a bunch of guys keeping me accountable rather than just that one dude, you know? And it was, just some of those powerful moments that you get, and sports, they just come around more often than not, because you're in the heat of battle, you're in the fire, you're under pressure. And at DLC, they always talk about if you step on a banana, what's going to come out. And I sit there the first 3 times like, well, dude, I don't have a clue. And they're like, banana. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm thinking there's some hidden answer. And they're right. When there's pressure applied, what's in you is going to come out. So I got to work really hard to make sure that only Christ is in me, so that whenever that pressure hits, I can respond the way that Christ would. And I don't always, but when I don't, then I got to make sure I make it right like Christ would, Yeah,
I love that. And I'll tell you, man, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with you guys at AMP, but, whenever you invited me to come over and be a part of that, and what you guys are doing there is pretty special.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've been around a lot of different schools and college ministry and that type of thing over the years, and I don't know that I've ever seen one like that has the effectiveness of somebody who just poured themselves into it. You got FCA and you got programs out there that are trying to do that, but for you to be able to just say, hey, I've got a heart for this campus, I feel a call to this campus, to these students, and to pour as much as you do into that is pretty special. And I would imagine that it's had a pretty significant impact, and it absolutely speaks for itself in the impact that's had there on the campus.
Well, it's had impact on us. My whole family's in it with me. I didn't even think that my whole family could be restored. Yeah. And I was bawling and squalling at an ATI conference one day, and Jeff Ray was there, which Jeff Ray and I don't know if you know,
played
college baseball together back at Oral Roberts. And but I'm frustrated and I'm mad and I'm hurt and I'm just bawling like a baby. And Jeff Ray's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, man, my youngest daughter hates my guts, and you guys are talking about restoration. Like, what's he going to restore it to? There's no relationship to restore to. And he grabbed me like I was his baby boy, by the cheeks, and just looked at me and said, because God doesn't restore to what it was. He restores to what it was supposed to be in the first place. And I lose it even more. Now I'm running everybody's service. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's like going, what the? But when you understand that, you can go into things with a different set of eyes. Yeah. And so now seeing that, like, my whole family is in this ministry with me, when all I did was fight against them for most of their lives. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so to see God at work, it's easy to get in there. And even in the frustration, like right now, we're going through a tough time. it's kind of morphed into this community deal, and we know we're called to the campus, and it's been harder and harder to get campus kids over there. But we got zero quit in us.
Yeah.
You know why? The culture that Gordon Morgan put into me back, we don't quit.
Yeah.
We fight. And that's in my wife. Maybe that's just a North Tulsa culture. There probably is a little bit of that in there, honestly. But, we grew up 4 houses down from each other. And maybe I'll quit something one day, but if my wife didn't quit me, she's pretty strong. You know what I mean? That's all the example you need.
Yeah.
And so, we really are blessed by it far more than we feel like we give blessings out. Case Woodard was one of his teammates, and every time his mom would come to town, she would just be like, you don't know what a blessing you and Kimberly are, that he has a home away from home and all those things. And I would stop her every time. I'd be like Miss Woodard, you have got to stop, because we were praying the summer before he got here, that we would have some young leadership emerge. And we got a freshman that loves God like crazy and is a great example of it. And I said, so he was the godsend, he was the blessing. But it's just, whenever you're sending your kid away and you see a place, and he claimed it for himself. I really think they built a great foundation in him, but he got to come here and claim Christianity and that life for himself, and was a great example within the team.
Absolutely.
And fought for it and did it in a way that was never really contradictory or, you like Jesus, I'm out. He just did it in a way that was attractive,
Authentic.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. I think the key in anything that we do in life is authenticity, which requires vulnerability, and it requires, it's the thing that builds trust. And if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. You don't have a voice. You don't have influence. And so, that's really what it is. And that's, I appreciate so much of what you're saying tonight, in this, because whenever I think about the impact of sports, and I think about the impact of coaches, and team leaders, that they're coming from a place of, being people's character. If you don't have character, you cannot lead.
Yeah.
I mean, you will only lead weak people. You know what I mean? People that'll follow anybody. But if you've got great character, you'll lead strong people, and strong people will follow you.
Yeah.
And whenever you get strong people and strong teammates and, people that want to be a part of that come together, it's really a special thing. It impacts communities. It impacts, that team. It impacts lives for the long haul, because I know that the responsibility of every coach, whether we realize it or not, it's not just about winning games. It's about developing people of character, people of integrity, people that are going to be good husbands, good wives, good, employees,
100%,
good bosses, all of that. So I really appreciate what you're saying in that.
One of the cool parts about like the impact that AMP has and had on my own life is, and this relates to culture, and it relates back to like leadership and appointed leaders versus emerged leaders.
Yeah.
Is like Zorn, like God gifted him and put him there for the purpose of AMP. Like you can't hire somebody else to run the AMP station,
right,
because it's Zorn's life.
Yeah.
It's who he is. It comes out of him. It's what God put in him. And it's like, it's the same way with the leadership culture in a team. If you're to get together at the beginning of a year and to just, you don't get together and say, you're going to be my captain and you four are the leaders of the team. No, it comes through time together. It comes through watching kids work. It comes through watching, okay, how's he going to respond when adversity hits? How's he going to work in the weight room? How's he going to work when he's not playing? When he's sitting on the bench, how does he still work the same? And it's like the reason Case Woodard, like Case was kind of a situational pitcher. He wasn't a starter. He wasn't a long reliever. He wasn't a closer or a setup guy. He was our situation guy. He was a sidewinder. And every once in a while, it's like, we have a really good matchup right here. I want you to go in for one batter.
Yeah.
And guess what? Case Woodard would go in for one batter, walk, strike out, home run, ground out, didn't matter. I promise you the next, and then Klimas would go out, pull him, and it's like you faced one batter and you sat through 36 innings of baseball this weekend. Monday morning, I promise you, Case Woodard was still he was still at practice. He was working the hardest, like
in the gym,
like leading runs. Like he was the one who was always helping push people. Like we talked about my junior college journey of like everybody was cutting runs. Well, if I wasn't going to have it, I'd promise you, if I wasn't there, Case Woodard dang sure wasn't going to have it.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, no, we're going to give absolutely everything we have in every single thing we do. And it's like, this is coming not from the starter, not from the ace, not from the dude who has 100 innings this year. This is coming from the dude who has 7 innings all year long.
That's a glue guy. You know, that's a guy that just holds the team together.
And like that's the impact that like that guys have, but like that's the impact Zorn has. It's just he's just wired that way. It's just who he is, and that's the culture of AMP. You know.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you. You know, we've been talking about trying to get you on for a while, and I appreciate you taking the time with us tonight to be able to come on and share your story and share some of these principles with you. Before you leave, what you got?
I have to ask this question. I experienced it as a player. I want you to tell me what you saw in 2019 from a coach's perspective.
Climate's not talked about that today. I mean,
for context, thank you. For context,
in the first episode of you guys' podcast, you said that a coach can lay the foundation for culture, but it's on the players to take that and run with it. And I think that's 2019 wasn't the best talented. The most talented team we've had. I mean, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was really talented, but it wasn't the most talented. But you guys did the most with who you guys were, and it was 100% culture. It was 100% leadership. It was everybody in the boat rowing the same time, the same direction. And, you know, you said the word today, buy-in, and I'm telling you, that's all we ever say. It seemed like is you got to be bought in, you got to be bought in, you know, and you guys had that. I you know, Gary and Zach Mann were natural born leaders. Yeah. Like if you didn't like those guys, you were the one that had a problem.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
It wasn't if anyone could go to anybody on that team and go, I don't like Zach Mann, and they'd be like, we're fitting to go.
Yeah.
Because that's, you got a problem. It ain't Zach Mann.
Yeah.
It ain't Jerry.
That's true.
You know, and those guys, and when you said that you had some seniors that gathered you guys together when we didn't even know about it, Climas told me today, he looked on that wall and there was like 3 of them, you know, and one was Gary, one was Zach, and one of them was the kid that left or that had the bad exit meeting but came back different, and he had buy-in. And it made that team fun. It made it, you know, enjoyable. You love to be around them. And Climas and I, when we were talking today about this stuff, because I seen that podcast and he watched it, and you know, he said, if you're talking about culture, you probably don't have it. If you're talking all the time about culture, and we got talking about Dabo Sweet, he's probably not going culture, and this is the guys know that were there with him last year, and they train these guys up that are coming in this year.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope that we have at RSU now, was those guys that because we had 16 guys leave, and a lot of those were those guys that created the actual culture that you would like to see. Yeah. And I hope that carries on, because if it does, that's going to change the trajectory of RSU baseball. Yeah. And when you change the trajectory of a single sport, it's easy to put your finger on what the difference is.
Right.
And then you can start to try to mimic that in other sports. And now you can't always get there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, otherwise all schools that were great in one sport, but it can make a big difference, because you can be like, okay, you know, this is how we're going to do things. And it's made a difference for those guys. Why don't we see if we can implement some of those things?
Yeah.
And again, they're not physical. They're not.
No, they're value standards.
We're gonna value strength training. You know, there's some things like that, but really most of it's mental. You know, I say this all the time. The job of a coach is to instill confidence when it shouldn't be there. Right?
Yeah.
You suck. We need to win. You're the man.
Yeah.
You're like, I am the man. And you go and you get it done, you know?
Yeah.
And then that builds and grows into real confidence, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, that's the ideal. And what I love about that thing is that's Jesus.
Yeah.
My wife's fixing to leave.
Yeah.
My daughter hates me. People aren't coming to AMP.
Yeah.
Man, I need some confidence.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for it to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is, because I got Jesus.
Yeah.
And he works outside of all that stuff.
Yeah.
And coaches can do that too. If they have culture and they have guys that buy into it,
Yeah.
you can thrive.
Yeah, I think you referenced like Clemson, Dabo Swinney. Like one of the things he says is there's no continuum for success, meaning that the things that helped you get successful, you have to repeat it every year.
Yeah.
And that really is best done whenever you got a handful of players that stick around, that are bought in and will pass those values down. Whenever you get to a place, it's like you said, where if you're having to talk about it all the time, whenever you get to a place to where the coaches every year having to reinstill the culture, reinstill the culture, then, it's, you got a problem. Brent Marley said it this way, and culture is installed at the top, instilled from the bottom, And so if the coach is having to do it all the time, you're right. Clinus is exactly right. If that's what you're talking about all the time within your program, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But whenever you've said it and there has been bought in and that buy-in is carried over and demonstrated by the leadership on the team, you can keep it moving forward.
Yeah.
You ever have a break in it, you got to go back to rebuilding. And that's where the coach kind of has to step back in and say we got to reinstall some things.
When you have the portal age,
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
we've had dudes leave every year, and honestly, none of them improved their position.
yeah,
They didn't improve their situation,
Right.
like they thought they would, and some of it was not fitting, and I get that. That's okay. This year we have 13 returners possible, all 13 coming back, and we actually have a guy that probably could have improved himself as far as going to a school that you see is better and able to compete, or maybe a D1 instead of a D2. And that's not always better. They think it is, but it's not always better.
really true.
There's D2s that don't have the facilities that we have. There's D2s that don't compete like we compete. There's D2s that aren't in leagues like the league that we're in. There's D2s that don't have a coaching group, and I'm excluding myself, that has the character that the guys that I work for have.
Sure.
So you're not always improving just because you're going D1. That's the thing you got to understand. But we actually have a guy that probably could have entered the portal and probably had some looks. The dude comes in and goes, "This is the funnest year I had in baseball in my life." That's more powerful than just about anything. We didn't win a championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We fought, we battled, we were all in it together. We knew that we loved each other, and you get a guy that's one of your studs that comes in and says, "Man, this is the funnest year I've had in baseball." Yeah. That's when you're like, that's the only way that I know there's some sort of different call on my life to step back, because that makes me want to dig all in. I'm like, can I go full time? I don't need any money. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how I knew that there was a real call. But at the same time, they made it, and I had to tell them. I pulled them all together. It's like, you guys made me actually have to pray about this, because you guys make me want to just dive in. But I know that God has something more, so I'm going to pull back a little, not a ton, but I'm going to pull back a little so that I can do some of those things. And we're all just kind of standing there weepy eyed and just like, it was tough, but because you had what you like to see year in and year out. And if they will take that and replicate that and make sure that there's, not any kind of poisons or cancers that come in, and then you got a real chance to build a program.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Zorn, before we leave, is there anything, like, if you want to say to a coach, that might be listening, to a player that may be listening, a parent, whatever, just empty your heart. Just empty your heart here for a moment, and then we'll wrap up.
Man, I just, I mean, I've had so many people. I always tell people that I had this vision in my life that I would be in front of, 50,000 people thanking my family and everybody for, committing to baseball with me. And, well, it's pretty obvious I never had the talent to be in front of anybody to talk about something like that. But, probably the easiest thing for me, and this goes beyond the fact that she's forgiven me, beyond the fact that she's still with me after all the stuff that I put her through, but literally my wife has been with me in this whole journey. And you're talking about, you know what a coach's wife is. You know what I mean? It's got to be the very top of sacrificial. And just to have that support, and she's the one that told me, go and get around baseball again. That's what you love, go get around that. And then as it starts taking a little more of you and a little more of you and a little more of you, she's like, man, do it. I'm in, you know what I mean? And so my family has just been amazing. Addie's kind of like my son. She's always been there for me. But Reg, is one of those that a little tougher, and the one that I had the restoration really needed to happen in, and they've just been all in especially since in the last probably 4 or 5 years, I'd say, wouldn't you? And
Oh yeah.
and so I'm just super thankful for them. But and then you got guys like Murph and Case and Zach Mann and Gary and all those guys. And this year we've got a ton of them. If I listen, I'd hurt someone's feelings, but they just make you love the game because they show you love. Yeah. You hope that they know that you love them, and you just can't. It stinks to say, but it goes deeper than a blood family relationship, and that I can't fully just put my finger on it what it is, but it almost seems bad to say, I'm not as close with my brothers as I am with Murph.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've always told Murph too, like, playing and going for a championship is awesome, and it's great, and it's stressful, and it's exciting. It's 100 times those feelings when you're wanting it for someone else.
Yeah.
When we were trying to win this ring, I was hurting for Murph when he hurt way more than he could even imagine for himself. You know what I mean? Because you want it so bad, because you see what they're doing, you see the effort, you see the work, and it's so easy to just like hurt for them, and then of course rejoice whenever they get a time to rejoice, and so I'm just thankful for God allowing me to be a part of it when I really wasn't chasing it anymore. Yeah. And then of course that changes your whole perspective when you get the opportunity to do it. So.
Most of the time that's when it happens. When you kind of die to yourself, and then an opportunity opens like that. Well, listen, hey guys, thank you for joining us, and watching this episode. This is the one thought that I would leave with you. Because I think what you've heard tonight is you've heard somebody open their life up to you. Talk about their marriage struggles, talk about their mistakes, and the reality is when we talk about culture, healthy cultures are made by real people. They're created by real life. If you've got people that just they steal some words, some keywords from another program and throw some vinyl lettering on the wall and say this is what our culture is. No, you can't build culture without it being out of your life.
Yeah,
it's really got to be, and that's what we heard when we interviewed Brent a couple of weeks ago, and that's what you hear again tonight. That's what you heard with Coach Ford, who was on with me here this past week. It's their life. They give their life to things, and they live that out. And so if you're a coach out there and you're trying to figure out how do I build culture, well, first of all, take a look inside. What's God given you? What do you have to offer? And what drives you? What motivates you? What is your strength? What is your gifts? And start there. And then as the other pieces of the puzzle come together, your coaching staff, your teammates, your players. Start there. What's going on in their lives, and build out of that. And I think if you do that, you're gonna experience a lot more success than what you ever thought possible. And it's so much more fun whenever you're doing it out of a place of being real. And so thank you so much for Zorn for coming on and sharing the Zohawk with us and all the life principles that you've given us here tonight, man. We appreciate you opening your life up. We'll have to do it again.
I enjoyed it. I'd love that, man. It'd
and
be awesome.
So thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the like button, share this with your friends, share this with if you got an athlete in your life, if you've got a coach in your life, if you've got a school administrator in your life, if you've got parents of coaches, share this with them and make sure we get the word out. We want to continue this conversation as we move forward.